Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. So we're finally coming to Branded Despia. It's been a bit. Usually I like to cover this deck a little bit sooner into the season, but just had a lot of other decks, of course, to try with Pearly coming out, and also just been busy, of course, with the new streaming and whatnot, which, by the way, if you did not know, I now stream regularly over on Twitch. If you want to go ahead and check out the link in the description below, you'll find a link to my Twitch page. You'll also find a link to my Twitter page, and if you follow on either, you'll get regular updates of when my stream schedule is, as I will pin my stream schedule over there on Twitter, and of course, if you follow on Twitch, you'll just get that notification. Also in the description is my Patreon if you're looking for some more daily Master Duel content and or some coaching, which I offer both of those on Patreon there. Just click that link down again in the description if you are interested in that. But anyway, Branded Despia. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how this deck has changed. So obviously the big, change here is that Branded Fusion went down to 1 from 2 copies. That was indeed actually the, only change to the deck. Well, the only limitation that we saw. It did, I think, slightly change how the deck is built. So Branded Despia is kind of one of those decks that I don't personally have a lot of experience with, right? I tend to just mostly play it, a few times a season, mostly just to get gameplay for the season's deck profile. It's kind of one of those decks for me. So in that regard, I often look more to see what other players are doing rather than trusting my own intuition necessarily, because again, my intuition for this deck is not as sharp as something like Sprite or something like that, right? So it seems like a lot of people are on the 3 Allure now in Branded Despia, which kind of makes sense with the Branded Fusion going to 1. Allure was already very good in Branded Despia. Of course, this deck already does like to generate a lot of advantage, so it in turn likes to cycle cards as well. And Despain Tragedy always makes a great target to banish with the Allure, because then you get a free search for the Aluber and you don't lose out on any advantage at all. So arguably Allure even just adds the advantage that this deck already likes to generate there. So in that regard, it seems to make a lot of sense. Also, of course, the more Allures you play, the more likely you are to draw into the one of Branded Fusion or the Aluber, or again the Tragedy to banish it to search the Aluber. So it makes sense why we would see the Allures being played as a 3 of here. I actually like it quite a bit because it allows the deck to have a lot more options available, right? Because going into the Branded Fusion line, I don't know, the limitation, it's one of those weird ones where it like matters and doesn't at the same time, right? Like, overall, does Branded Despia play very differently now that Branded Fusion is at 1 and not 2? No, I don't think that's the case at all. In fact, I think it plays almost exactly the same, but I can tell even with my relatively little experience with the deck that there's a lot of little nuance that changes with how you kind of play your lines when you have access to only one Branded Fusion in the deck. And also, again, it does slightly affect deck building, with Allure seeming to be a bit more of a popular choice. I am playing Nibiru, which is not at all a popular choice in Branded Despia, but in metas like this, i.e. metas where tier limit is not tier 1, I like having something to get off the Maxx. What can I say? I think it's very, very important to have something to get off the Maxx, because especially when with a list like this where Branded Despia very often does not play Ash Blossom or Imperm, so the Maxx is really mostly here to threaten, right? More than anything else, threaten to draw a lot of cards on the opponent's first turn if they choose to combo off, which obviously dissuades them from doing so, and in turn lets you set up into a relatively open board. However, if the opponent decides to take the Maxx challenge, especially beyond the first turn, right, we want to make sure that we have something that we can do if they decide to do that, because without the Nibiru or Imperms or Ash Blossoms, we're kind of just SOL, honestly. Now, if they do it on turn 1, that's actually still fine, because then they can't OTK us, and we'll have a lot of cards to retaliate against their board with. But all in all, I think that Nibiru is pretty important to have if you're playing the 3 Maxx here. It's also another light monster to potentially send off Albion. In that regard, I could get away with only playing 1 Lubellion, right? But I like having 2 just in case you draw 1, but still want to fuse for the Albion from the deck there. So you have the option, the ability to do that. Speaking of Bystials, I do wish I'd played Jewisworm. I might cut one of the 3 Saronir to play Jewisworm, mostly just to have a different name, right? There are a lot of times where I wanted just another Bystial monster to be able to search off Magnamhut or just to summon in general, so I don't think needed Jewisworm's effects particularly, but it's also, of course, still not bad to have that either. As far as the extra deck goes, I'm still playing the 3 Super Poly, and I think, honestly, it's probably right to just play the 3 Super Poly, because It's just a really, really good card. So in that regard, my extra deck's a little bit geared towards that. I've got the Mudragon of the Swamp and the Garura. I've kind of thought about playing the Sprint instead of the Mudragon of the Swamp, because this can be used with Albaz and then, literally any effect monster summon this turn, which makes it a good Super Poly target. Well, in reality, a good Branded Banishment target. So sorry about that cut there, folks. My voice just went out there for a moment. But like I was saying, if you wanted to, you could also play Sprint, the Iron Dash Dragon in the extra deck. It is a pretty good card to summon off of the Branded Banishment because, again, you just bring back the Albaz and you can fuse with literally any monster that your opponent has summoned this turn. So it's not like, it's not like Brigand where you need specifically a level 8 or higher monster. But I do still like the Brigand because of the ability to utilize it as just for its ability to add a Tri-Brigade card, namely the Mercourier here. So that is an option to sprint over the Mudragon, but overall I like the Mudragon because it's better with the Super Poly, which you play 3 of, as opposed to just the 1 of, which we searched to be fair, but you'll have plenty of other targets for Branded Banishment pretty often there. So that's pretty much going to go ahead and do it for the list. Now, let's go ahead and break it down card by card, and then we'll look at some gameplay. Alright, so we are playing 2 Despian Tragedy, 3 Maxx, 3 Fallen of Albaz, 2 Aluber, the Jester of Despia, 2 Tri-Brigade Mercourier, 1 Springans Kitt, 1 Blazing Cartesia, the Virtuous, 1 Bystial Magnamhut, 3 Bystial Saronir, 1 Albion, the Shrouded Dragon, 2 the Bystial Lubellion, 1 Nibiru, the Primal Being, 1 Foolish Burial, 3 Allure of Darkness, 3 Fusion Deployment, 1 Branded Fusion, 1 Branded Lost, 3 Super Poly, 2 Call by the Grave, 2 Branded Opening, 1 Branded Banishment, and then 1 Branded Retribution. There is our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Mudragon of the Swamp, 1 Garura, Wings of Restorant Life, 1 Predaplant Dragostepelia, 1 Brigand the Glory Dragon, 2 Albion the Branded Dragon, 1 Despian Quaretits, 1 Masquerade the Blazing Dragon, 2 Mirrorjade the Iceblade Dragon, 1 Lubellion the Searing Dragon, 1 Granganol the Dusk Dragon, 1 Rindabrum the Striking Dragon, 1 Guardian Chimera, and then 1 Despian Proskenion. That's going to go ahead and do it for the list. Let's see some gameplay now. Alright, so this first duel is going to be against Mathmech. Now, normally I don't keep duels that don't go past my first turn, but this one was actually pretty spicy this turn, so I wanted to kind of show this one off here. We are going to be taking the first turn here. As you can see, our opening hand it's alright, actually. We have the Fusion Deployment and the Allure, as well as pretty much all of our Bystials right here. So I'm going to start by activating the Allure, but arguably it would be better to activate I'm going to do Lubellion and then Allure. But it would arguably be better to activate Fusion Deployment first to get Cartesia in case we need it, but I really am mostly thinking that because, as you can see, I did end up drawing the Cartesia. That said, we will have some use for Fusion Deployment in just a moment. So, I'm going to use Albion, the Shrouded Dragon, to send a Branded Retribution. Second Allure drawn off that is going to find a Despian Tragedy as well as a Mercourier. The Tragedy is going to get banished and then search the Aluber Jester of Despia, which I will then normal summon, but it's going to get hit with the Infinite Impermanence. So, no Branded Fusion search for me here. I do honestly think my opponent should have waited on the Imperm. I think it's best to use Imperm on the Fusion Albion. So I'm going to use the Fusion Deployment to summon an Albaz here, and this will not only allow me to do special the Blazing Cartesia, but that I can fuse it with the Albaz and go ahead and summon that Albion. And this is actually the exact same setup as if I had just summoned Albion off of Branded Fusion. Opponent's got a Ghost Spell and Haunted Mansion to try to stop the Albion effect, but I drew that Mercourier, so I'm going to use that to counter the Ghost Spell. So now I have pretty much the same Branded Fusion setup, but without actually having activated Branded Fusion, and my opponent's down 2 cards. You managed to play through 2 Disrupts as well. So I'm going to use the Albion to fuse the Mercourier and the Albaz for Lubellion. I want to fuse with Mercourier specifically because it gets to search a card when banished. Lubellion's going to discard the Saronir here, which will also allow me to send the Branded Fusion to the graveyard once that resolves there. Added Kitt, by the way, off of the search there. Summoning the Mirrorjade now. Saronir is going to send that Branded Fusion. Retribution will bounce the Branded Fusion back to my hand. I also get to send the Albion to summon Lubellion, which summoning Lubellion will let me activate the Branded Lost from the deck, and then now after having done what you normally do when you open Branded Fusion, I'm now activating Branded Fusion, right? And here I knew I wanted to summon Randabrum, but I was actually kind of debating if I wanted to use the Springans Kitt in hand as a material, or the Mercourier in deck as a material. Because if I use the Springans Kitt in hand, obviously I lose a little bit of hand advantage, but then I get to search the Mercourier off the Lost, whereas, you know, if I did the Mercourier from deck, then I get to keep the hand advantage, but I don't get Search Mercourier specifically. I was leaning towards sending the Springans Kitt for my hand when my opponent just conceded. I guess they just decided that after seeing me pull off this turn through 2 of their disruptions, they were not willing to play this duel anymore, which I don't blame them for, honestly. Again, normally I like to show duels that actually have some amount of back and forth. I don't like to just show me styling on turn 1. However, I've never styled super hard like this with Branded Despia, and maybe Branded Despia regulars are like, oh yeah, this is pretty standard stuff, but I kind of thought that chain of events was wild, and I just kind of wanted to show it off. So, yeah, GG's to Mathmech, and let's go ahead and take a look at the next duel here. Alright, this deck is going to be against a favorite of mine, the Everything Pile. The 60-card Everything Pile. There's Punks, there's Tears, there's Thunder Dragons, there's a whole lot of stuff happening with this list. I'm going to be taking the first turn yet again here and opening a pretty phenomenal hand. Got the Tragedy, Aluber, Lubellion, Super Poly, and Allure. Going to start with the Lubellion. See if I can't maybe beat out an Ash Blossom or something. Going to add Saronir there. Allure of Darkness is going to be activated. And I did draw another Tragedy, which isn't great. Even the Tragedy here isn't the best because I did already open Aluber. But, you know, I'll definitely take another copy. I definitely like drawing that Mercourier as well. Aluber is going to search, and then I will activate the Branded Fusion. So no imperms or anything stopping us here. No Ash Blossoms either. Although, again, we had the Mercourier for the... Well, no, we didn't have a fusion monster in place, so that wouldn't work. Never mind. In any case, gonna do the Albion into Lubellion. I think I might have been able to make Randabrum here. I forget off the top of my head what the kind of combo requirements are for you to make Randabrum instead of Albion, but the Albion line is the one I remember, so it's the one I usually do. Like I said, not the most seasoned Branded Despia player myself, but I like to think I'm still like okay with the deck. So gonna use the Lubellion to set up the Lost here. Also sets up the Albion in the graveyard. Gonna wheel the Branded Fusion back to my hand, set the Super Poly, and then finally use Albion to set the Branded Banishment. So got 2 kind of Super Poly effects. Of course, the Mirrorjade and then the Mercourier going into my opponent's turn here. They're going to start by activating the Brigand and then sending Lubellion to add the Bystial Swarm. They're going to be activating Swarm here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and use the Mercourier effect. So there were a couple of factors that actually made me consider this. One was that I actually did really want the Albion in the graveyard to use with the Branded Banishment because I don't really have any other targets. I don't have a Despia or another fusion monster in there, so I really want this Albion in the yard. On top of that, I don't want the Swarm to get summoned because it's actually going to be a little bit awkward for me to deal with it unless I use the Mirrorjade Banish, and I think I can use the Mirrorjade Banish on other things. Plus, combined with the fact that it's already good to negate the Swarm summon to keep the Albion in the yard, I'm going to go ahead and not let the Swarm resolve here. So that also denies them a draw off the Regain, which they might need too. And also denies them the ability to summon Lubellion here, potentially. Although I'm expecting that they will probably have another Bystial monster coming down. So they're going to normal summon Caldo. This still represents a problem for my Branded Banishment, but I'm not able to just fire off Mirrorjade, because if I activate Mirrorjade, then they get to just, use the Caldo effect. However, once they E-tell you for the no punk Xayamine, that's going to change things a little bit, right? Now it becomes worth it to use Mirrorjade, and here's the thing. I'm expecting them to chain the Caldo to put back my Albion, as well as other stuff in my yard. And if they do, that's fine. I just banish the Xayamine. But if they don't, then I get to banish the Caldo, and that's a lot better for me. Sure enough, I'm going to activate Mirrorjade, send another Albion, and the Mirrorjade gets to banish the Caldo here. They do not chain it. You might also wonder, well, if you're going to send another Albion anyway, do you really need that one in the yard for the banishment? The answer is yes, because I need the one that I fusion summoned, because that's the only one that can be special summoned. Also, not concerned about banishing the Xayamine here, because as soon as my opponent summons a Dirna, which I suspect they'll do momentarily, I can just flip up Super Poly, and then they just don't have plays, right? Because they don't get to summon their Chaos Ruler, their Dirna isn't going to proc, and I can just, throw down this Mudragon here. So, opponent's going to go to end phase, and then just immediately concede after that, as they realize, oh yeah, they added the Branded Fusion back, I just lose here. And indeed they do. So, pretty nice showcase of how to most efficiently use your, I don't know about most efficiently, but to at least pretty decently efficiently use all of your disruption as a Branded Despia player. It's funny, I actually played around to being able to activate the Branded Banishment, and I ultimately didn't even need to do that. But if my opponent had more extension, particularly summoning like a dark monster, then I could have used the Branded Banishment to go into Dragostepelia by bringing back the Albion and then fusing. So still important to keep that live, I think. Alright, there is that duel. Let's go and take a look at the next one here. Alright, this opponent is on pretty much just a pure Sky Striker list, which has definitely been a hot meta since I've seen one of these. They are running There Can Be Only One, but that's literally the only trap card or even floodgate that they have here. It's pretty much just a pure kind of striker list. So, we actually lost this coin flip, but they're going to let us go first because I think they're more of a going second build. They do seem to be relatively focused on the OTK there. So, I'm going to go ahead and use the Albion first. Going to draw into a Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is going to send the Saronir, but they're going to go ahead and Ash Blossom the Saronir effect. Makes sense, you know. They just saw me send, I should have the Retribution in the yard. They don't want me to send the Branded Fusion there as well, but at the same time, I don't think that actually makes sense, because wouldn't you just save the Ash Blossom for the Branded Fusion? I would think that's what you'd want to do, but who knows? In any case, I'm actually going to fuse for the Lubellion here, because I want to go ahead and activate that Despain Tragedy. I also want to go ahead and set up the, I'm trying to think actually, why didn't I go for Albion here? Wouldn't you just send Albion and like do the same line? Huh, yeah, I don't know. I don't think there really was a reason for me to go for Lubellion and not just for Albion. Okay, well, you know, maybe I just wasn't thinking, who knows. In any case, we still get... Oh, it's because of Maxx. Duh, my opponent Maxx. So, oh my god, I can't believe I missed that. So, yeah, when you get Maxx, I think it's really best just go for the shortest route to the Mirrorjade, which here was the Lubellion, which is why I did that, not the Albion line. It also definitely does not hurt that they already used the Ash Blossom and ultimately did stop my play, because now, rather than ending on a +1, which they normally would when you summon Mirrorjade this way, they're just ending on 5 cards in hand like they would have normally. So I'm definitely okay with that. Yeah, whoops, I totally missed that. But, alright, they're going to go ahead and activate the Rhoda for the Ray, or for the Raz actually here, rather, and then they summon the Ray anyway, right? Yeah. Or no, they're going to Upstart Goblin first. Now they summon the Ray, and then special the Raz. Looks like they are linking the two of those off for the Sky Striker Ace Azalea. New bit of support they got. You definitely see this more outside of Striker decks than you do in, but it definitely is still good in Striker decks, rather. So, here I'm going to use the Mirrorjade to not only banish the Azalea, but also Magnamhut to then banish the Ray out of the graveyard. Of course, I want the Ray out of the yard so that it doesn't come back when the Azalea leaves the field. She'll still pop my Mirrorjade, but that's fine. I can chain block the Magnamhut Surge here with the Mirrorjade effect as a result, but they already used Ash Blossom, so I don't think they have another one here. They do still have a Hornet Drones. They're going to go ahead and use that to summon a Sky Striker Ace token and then go for the Hayate. Does not seem like they have an OTK set up. Hayate is going to smack me for 1500, and then they are sending the, of course, the Mobilize Engage. She'll then link off into the Gagari and add that Mobilize Engage back to their hand. Alright, Engage is going to come down here. I believe it adds the continuous spell, yes, the Mecha Modules, and will also gain an extra draw because they have 3 or more spells in the yard. Mecha Module is going to activate, then during the end phase they're going to get the Shizuku here. Shizuku, if I recall correctly, will end up searching the Shark Cannon after they set a card. Shark Cannon will then activate, and then they get to not only banish a card out of my yard, but then reset the Shark Cannon with the Mecha Modules, which is a little bit annoying. That banish might matter a little bit, but it's not the biggest deal in the world. Mirrorjade will also proc, that'll destroy the Shizuku, and again, because Ray got banished, they do not get to summon a Sky Striker monster back again. Activating Branded Loss, as well as the effect of the Bystial Lubellion that'll allow me to add the Saronir here. Opponent's going to Droll and Lockbird. Normally this would be a pretty big deal, but I already have the Branded Fusion in hand, so I kind of don't really care, to be totally honest. Opponent's going to try to Shark Cannon and succeed in banishing the Lubellion, as well as using linkage to send the Mecha Modules. I don't know why they didn't send the Shark Cannon, actually, but alright. Kagari is going to wheel back that engage, but this hardly matters to me because I can only easily run over this Kagari, actually fuse with it by summoning the Mirrorjade, but I'm also just going to end the duel this turn, so I don't really care what they add as long as it's not any kind of disruption. So as soon as Branded Fusion comes down, the opponent concedes. It's funny how often that actually ends up happening with this deck. I think Branded Fusion might be one of the most like conceded to archetypal cards out there. I just find myself winning a lot the instant I play this card. Go figure. So we have one more game to show off. Let's go straight into it here. Alright, this last game is going to be against Mikanko. That's going to be the new equip-focused archetype that does damage when they battle into things with 0 attack point monsters. Yet again, we did actually lose this coin flip, but like the last game, our opponent actually allowed us to go first, which makes sense because Mikanko is a very much going second deck. This hand's looking really good. We're going to start with both Branded Lost and Branded Fusion. No need to do any searching to set these plays up. And they don't have an Ash Blossom, so I'm going to go straight into the Albion. Albion's going to go ahead and be summoned off of course, Albaz and Lubellion. And I'll get to activate both its effect as well as the effect of the Branded Lost. Branded Lost is going to add the Tri-Brigade Mercourier to hand, and then Albion will fuse with the Albaz in hand with the Albaz in the graveyard in order to summon the Lubellion. Now, Lubellion, the Searing Dragon, is going to activate, discarding the Bystial Saronir in order to fusion summon for who else but Mirrorjade. Saronir is going to activate, of course, as well. I'll be sending a Branded Retribution to the graveyard with that, so that way I'm able to wheel the Branded Fusion back to my hand with it. Gonna, of course, sack off the Albion with the Lubellion to not only trigger its effect for the end phase, but, oh, wait, we don't actually get a Lubellion surge because I'm not playing Regained and we already have the Branded Lost in play. But that's fine. The Albion will still, of course, set up the Branded Banishment to the field. So, opponent's turn now. They're going to equip Axe of Fools to my Mirrorjade, and of course I immediately know what's happening here. They are going to end up being the Mikanko deck. I actually misplayed pretty hard here by activating this Branded Banishment. For some reason, I thought they were going to be summoning a Mikanko monster before the Banishment resolved, and it's very much not the case, so I kind of end up... I don't know. I don't know if I fuse into Dragostepelia for no reason, but... Oh, it was the Mirrorjade effect that was the misplay, not the Banishment. The Banishment I meant to do, but the Mirrorjade effect, for some reason, I thought I would be getting it off, and I thought they'd be summoning something. It's because I read the effect of the Equip spell card, and I thought they were going to immediately special summoning, but this is actually like an activated effect they would do separately. I just totally misread that, so... even if I had read that like the way I thought it did, though, it's still... The banish still wouldn't have happened the way I wanted it to. So it was just a complete misplay on my part. Might matter. I mean, it actually might not, because Lubellion really just provided a 3k defense body for them to run into, and I think I would have actually just lost more quickly. So might have actually been a good thing. Might have actually ended up being the right call to banish my own thing there. So... Opponent's going to summon a lot of Mikanko monsters, and they're all going to deal damage to me when they battle into my defense mode Dragostepelia. I don't know why I Magnamhutted here. Total misplay. No reason to do it at all. I'm just going to take a little bit more damage, I think, as a result. But not that that super matters, but... Yeah, so going to be taking a lot of damage. Not dead quite just yet, but at the same time... I really don't have a way to get rid of these cards, and, you know, it's not like I can battle into them, so I need to get rid of them via card effects. So, what I'm thinking here is I'm going to try to go ahead and summon my Guardian Chimera and see if that can't do it. I do get a Cartesia here, but, I think a lot of you are already seeing what the problem with my plan is, and the sad thing is I actually have made this misplay in another deck profile that I'm about to do here, and I just still have not learned my lesson. Summoning Guardian Chimera using a bunch of monsters on the field, but the Guardian Chimera does not get its effect because it has to be fusion summoned by a spell card or effect. Indeed, I think I actually just need to add a Branded Red because I'm pretty sure I don't have any way to actually summon this off of a spell card with my current list. Oops. That's going to be a big oops for me and just immediate, like, shame, concede. So, there's that. I don't know. Maybe if I'd thought better or just been a better Despia player, I could have actually beaten that Mikanko board, but... Oops, I wasn't, so I didn't. But, you know, it's like I always say, as long as I have a good back-and-forth duel, I'm not afraid to show my own loss, or even my own misplay, really. As you can see, I just kind of threw this game multiple times over. But, been had was right. I have, in fact, been had. It was not necessarily by them, though. Well, it was by them, but it was also by myself. In any case, it's going to go ahead and do it for this video. Thank you, everybody, for watching all the way to the very end. That means a lot. Let's go ahead and move now to our outro. Alright everybody, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you for watching it all the way to the very end. That means a whole lot to me, and it's also a fantastic way to support the channel. And if you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways besides YouTube, there are plenty of ways to do that. If you check out the description below, you'll find a bunch of links down there. One of them goes to my Patreon. You're actually seeing the names of everyone subscribed to the Patreon on the screen right now. So if you're interested in getting your name in the credits here at the end, if you want to see more daily Master Duel content, or if you're interested in one-on-one private coaching sessions, I offer all of that on Patreon. I also stream live on Twitch. Feel free to go ahead and click that link and follow and or subscribe there. I also have the Discord community, if you want to follow that link, where hundreds of duelists have already signed up. Free to join, and you can just come hang out, talk about the game, and chill in general. Final link that's going to be in the description is my Twitter. You can follow that if you want some more notifications of what's happening with the channel. So, all in all, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.